Today's session, we're going to talk about a few features that were introduced with Particleworks version 7. The feature I'm going to be going over today is our Snapshot feature, and it's probably one of now becoming one of my favorite features. This is becoming really useful for things like generating videos and finding images that you like inside of your Particleworks scene, and you can save it for reference. So a little bit of background, this is a new feature, as I just mentioned, in Particleworks version 7. This feature records the camera properties and your scene properties, and the following features are recorded with this information. So we've got our time, color map, scene options, we've got our properties, and all of the following properties except for the parent feature will be saved with the snapshot feature, and that is the clipping, profile, ruler axis, color bar, and again time. Other things that are also in the properties is the show hide feature as well as the appearance feature. And this is just a couple of examples of some snapshots that I generated in the first tutorial, the dam break tutorial. This is just a snapshot that I wanted to capture here with a surface generation that I did, and then if I was interested in particles splashing through the dam break, this is a separate snapshot roughly halfway through the simulation. Both of these are saved in Particleworks and can be referenced at any point in time. So there's a couple ways to do this. One way is to click on the miscellaneous folder in the outline section, and you'll find that right underneath your toolbar. If you click on this folder, you can see the snapshot feature, which looks like a little camera icon. If you click on that, that'll generate the snapshot. The second way is you can click on the window the window option that's located above the toolbar, and select snapshot. What this does is this opens up a snapshot controller on the right-hand side of the GUI, and this will actually organize all the snapshots you've generated in your scene. And then from there, you can actually create a snapshot in that actual right-hand side GUI. And this is the snapshot that opens up. So when you click on that window and click snapshot, this snapshot window opens up on the right-hand side. You can right-click in this window and then create snapshot. How to apply these snapshots, you'll need to do the following. Select the snapshot node in your outline section. This is going to be the typical setup in Particleworks. Right-click on the snapshot node and then apply snapshot. And this will take you back to whichever snapshot you saved in your scene. Alternatively, you can select the window, select snapshots, and you can display all snapshot windows, or you can display a snapshot window and pick which scene you want to, or which snapshot you want to look at. You can either right-click on that snapshot and select apply snapshot, or you can just simply double-click the snapshot. And this is just going to be, again, click on window, snapshot, the snapshot and the GUI opens up. You can right-click on your snapshot, click apply snapshot, or simply double-click snapshot. And this has become one of my favorite features in Particleworks 7. It becomes very useful when you're making videos or you're making let's say like slide presentations, and you have certain views you want to save in your videos or your slide presentation. This is very useful. And one thing that I did not put in this slide that I'll amend later is once you save a snapshot and it's in a scene and you duplicate your scene, that snapshot will be saved over into the duplicated scene. But very useful, and I hope all those on the call get a chance to explore it and get a chance to play around with it.
All right. Yep, thank you everybody. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I want to reiterate what Chris was saying there. Really, the snapshot is one of my favorite features, new features as well. I'm using it all the time. A lot of times I'm working on a project and I have multiple different runs to go through for the same project. We're changing different settings and then trying to compare how things changed between these different settings, and being able to easily come back to a view and get the exact same view that I had previously. It's a very easy way to save those views in between runs. It's also a very easy way to save a view if you just want to come back to it later. All of those visual settings are saved. It's super useful. I'm using it all the time. But yeah, so we decided that was an important one because it's something that's often we feel is overlooked. When we talk to people that are using Particleworks, we think that's overlooked compared to how useful it is. And this is another one that I think is overlooked compared to how useful it is, which is the plot overlay feature. And it's another way to visualize your information. So what is the plot overlay? The plot overlay puts a little plot right in your scene window, and it's just right there next to it, and it has this a little vertical line which indicates the time step that you're currently at, and you'll be able to see that a little clearly when I play some animations. But I'm using this all the time when I'm trying to understand a new model. It's a little quick and dirty way to plot and be able to easily see a comparison of the plot and where you are at in the animation at the same time. All right, so creating a plot overlay. It's right next to the snapshot in the GUI in this miscellaneous folder. So you have snapshot right above and plot overlay right below. And as soon as you do that, you'll be asked to indicate the output that you want to graph. And there are a lot of graphable outputs that are available by default. If you look through the CSV files that are generated during your simulations, those are the outputs that are available to be graphed. And it can be a lot to go through, so it's quite useful to use these little drop-down menus, which will narrow down these selections for you. So you can, I mean, first of all, you're selecting animation, so that's kind of how things are moving in your simulation. And then there's things like the history, which has more information about the particles and the memory that was used during your simulation, how long the simulation took, things like that. And using these drop-down menus can help you narrow it down and make it easier to select those. And so this is an example of a plot overlay. This is one of the tutorials. And what I did in this case is I graphed actually the water load that's on the tank, specifically in the X direction, and graphed that just in a really easy plot overlay method. And what that does is it graphs this in a way so that you can actually view where you're at in the simulation as the simulation's going. And so you can create videos with this. You can view it just in the scene window, and it makes it really easy to see exactly where you are at in the simulation at any given time. And so I may want to pause that, and I can see exactly, okay, this is what the water load looked like at this specific time. And it ends up being quite useful, especially I find for debugging. So when do I use it? Most frequently, I'm using plot overlay as a debugging tool. I find it easier to use plot overlay and to get direct feedback. I can see exactly where I'm at in the simulation, see if there might be an issue at a certain point. And I graph multiple things. I'm looking for things like the max particle velocity at a certain point in time. I'm looking at the different animation, how I input the motion into the simulation. I can see that and get direct feedback on where I'm at. And this is a quick plotting tool. A lot of times when I'm making graphs for real presentations, a lot of times I want something that's has a little bit more features, and so maybe I'll work with the CSV files directly to do that. But I do find that this plotting tool is really useful for that first understanding of the model and noticing how things could possibly be going wrong in my model. And so I wanted to point out something that I noticed with the plot overlay tool in preparation for this. And so this is actually a tutorial of the tank sloshing. And what I did is I input this specific X direction motion so that it's kind of moving back and forth in this sine wave as a sine wave function. And so now I'm graphing the X position of the water tank. So you can see it has this, I guess it's a negative sine wave shape to it, going back and forth in the X direction. And something I noticed very early on is there's kind of this interesting, so I let particles settle at this initial point and then I started the motion, and there's kind of this initial surge of the water particles, and I was kind of curious what's causing that initial surge of the water particles. And I realized that by looking at this plot overlay, the cause of that was actually this discontinuity that happens in the position. So if you're thinking about this in terms of the velocity instead of the position, there's a discontinuity when it hits this point where it starts accelerating. And there's extremely high accelerations for just that one time step. And so that discontinuity actually causes this jump in the particles right at the beginning. That's probably not very realistic compared to how it would be in real life. So maybe looking at this plot overlay, I could make a decision about, okay, maybe I need to change how I define that motion, because that discontinuity is not how that motion is actually defined in real life. Another just a quick thing to mention, you can change how the plot overlay is viewed. You can change things like the colors, you can change many things about it. By default, you're defining using numbers as a margin in the X and Y direction where that plot overlay is placed on your screen. But you can also use the show window option, which is something that I use somewhat frequently, which kind of just pops that plot overlay out as a window, and you can move it around a little bit. So sometimes I'll have that, sometimes I'll have it off, sometimes I'll have it on, and that just kind of pops it out as a window that you can easily move around. And for no particular reason, I just changed the colors just to show that those colors can be changed as you like. Yeah, that's a feature that I think is often overlooked and has been underutilized compared to its usefulness. We would be happy to answer any questions that you have about the plot overlay or about the snapshot feature. We're happy to help you get started using it. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer those now, or you can also contact us, as Chris mentioned before, at the support@enginesoftusa.zohodesk.com. And yeah, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. Thank you for that presentation. Before we get into Q&A, a couple things I wanted to mention. There is a Particleworks user group on LinkedIn. That link was sent in the chat. So if anybody is interested in that, you can copy that and join. From there, you can interact with different Particleworks users, maybe bounce some ideas, get some feedback for other users, and it's free to join. So yeah, if you're interested in that, check it out. And again, I just like to mention support. We're always happy to help answer any questions. We have this support system to where as soon as your question comes in, it gets sent to the right person, and make sure any questions don't get overlooked or fall through the cracks. So with that, I will turn it over to Q&A and open the floor for any questions before we leave.